Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled podcast, designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. Today's guest believes that lasting transformation doesn't happen simply by changing your thoughts. It happens when you address the deeper patterns carried in the body, emotions, and lived experiences. Jessica Ann is the founder of Artemisia Energetics Academy, creator of the Energetic Alchemy Integration Method, host of the Dark Hero podcast. Following the loss of her husband, Jessica returned to personal training and began noticing something unexpected. Clients were experiencing profound breakthroughs that couldn't be explained by physical training alone. Clients were experiencing profound breakthroughs that couldn't be explained by physical training alone. That discovery led her on a 15-year journey of research, eventually developing a methodology that brings together somatic intelligence, shadow work, and principles drawn from Hermetic tradition. Today, she trains coaches, facilitators, and purpose-driven leaders to help people move beyond intellectual insight into deeper personal integration. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Darlington.
All right, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed that introduction.
It was beautifully done. Thank you.
Okay, so Jessica, your journey into this work began after one of the most difficult experiences imaginable, the loss of your husband. How did that season of your life shape the path that you are on today?
It's one of those things that I feel like it can't be understated. Often I will go on my own little loops every now and again, wanting to connect with why it is that I do the work that I do, and really wanting to get clear on, what this, the next chapter potentially, if I'm doing kind of a review. And honestly, it often comes back to that experience of losing my late husband, Anthony, because I had any illusion of time kind of taken away from me. I feel like it was so easy. Like when Anthony and I were younger, we would always be planning, we'd be doing the sensible thing. We'd be thinking about, what's our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan. But the truth is, none of us really know how long we've got. And so there's a lot of truth in plan for tomorrow, but live for today. And so I have this insatiable need to help other people to liberate themselves from the things that keep them trapped in versions of their life that they've outgrown, things that are less than what they really want. How do we take ownership of creating our lives? And so for me, that experience of losing him really made me realize just how easy it is for life to kind of pass us by in a lot of ways. And don't get me wrong, we were very happy in the time that we had together, but there is so much I know Anthony would have loved to have been able to do in that time. And so it really lit a fire under me to do that in my own life, but also support other people to do the same.
All right, I just that was wonderful. So while working as a personal trainer, noticed clients experiencing breakthroughs that couldn't be explained through physical exercise alone. What first made you realize something deeper was happening?
So I'd worked as a personal trainer prior to my late husband getting sick, but it wasn't until I went back to the gym after his passing that when I was working with clients, often they'd be coming to me, maybe we might have gone through a journey of losing 30 kilos, but then they would be coming back to me realizing that there was something deeper than just the weight loss. I'd had people break down to me in the gym and sharing about how they felt like they were stuck in loveless marriages. And all of this felt new to me in a lot of ways, because back when I was PTing before, I didn't have these kind of revelations. And really what I put it down to was how much of the inner work I was doing. This is part of where I feel the law of resonance really plays a big part into who we call into our lives. And so it wasn't enough for me to just listen to them and hear them out in the gym, but I actually wanted to be empowered to support them to navigate these things. I think it's quite socially acceptable for us to admit that we want to change our body. But if there's something deeper than that, sometimes it's quite vulnerable to admit that. So I think for a lot of people, they're experiencing these revelations inside themselves, and it was a catalyst for me to realize, like, actually, no, I want to be able to help. I want to be able to support these people to work on what's really under the surface rather than just working on the body.
Okay, wonderful. So, you describe yourself as a spiritual scientist. What does that term mean to you?
So, as much as I love spiritual concepts, I will disappear down a rabbit hole all day. But for me, it's really about being able to approach these things with also healthy skepticism. I think there is a lot of fluff and a lot of noise out there around manifestation, spiritual concepts. And I think it's really important for us to get back to the ground and really consider, how applicable is this in real life? Does it reap results? Where are the limitations of it? And also starting to not being afraid to look at some of the scientific correlations or even arguments against some of these things. I think a truth needs to be able to be transferable regardless of circumstance. And so what we want to look at is, how boldly can we also look at the limitations of the things that have helped us?
Okay. So, you spent 15 years developing the energetic alchemy integration method. What gap were you trying to fill that you felt existing approaches weren't addressing?
So when I had that thirst to really get good at helping people work with what was under the surface, I ended up studying multiple modalities. And so these were from mindset through to somatics, through to energetics, to understanding more about systems thinking. And so what I realized is that often a lot of the modalities that I learned worked really well at one specific aspect of who we are. I see the human system as a really complex, almost like an antenna that's receiving information at multiple bandwidths all the time. And so what I really wanted to create was something that worked across the physical, energetic, mental, emotional, and spiritual layers of who we are. And so the energetic alchemy integration method was really birthed as a holistic solution for practitioners, for coaches. Well, first of all, for me to help better help my clients. But then eventually I wanted to share it because I could see how quickly this was creating results for people. People would talk about it almost like bending time. People would get results in one session that used to take them 6. And I attribute a lot of that, aside from working at that deeper level of where things are imprinted, with the fact that it is an integrated modality. We aren't just neglecting the rest of your being to work on one specific level.
Wonderful. So, how can we work on other levels?
So if we think about it, and I also think it's important for us to have versatile tools. Like, I'm not, as much as I am probably biased, I think the energetic alchemy integration method is amazing. I use it all the time with my clients. I use it all the time on myself. But being able to recognize, maybe we have a predisposition to be very mental. Maybe we have a really great ability to be able to explain our behavior and what drives us. But inevitably what will happen is we get to a point where the things that used to work for us stop working. And so this is where sometimes being able to work across those different layers can open up new possibilities and new ways to see ourselves. And so one of the most obvious ones from there for people is often that somatic layer. So it's like, how comfortable am I being in my body, being in the sensations of my body? How can I start to create more comfortability to acknowledge what's happening on a somatic level? Because most of the time, our thoughts are happening in response to what's happening in our body. And so if we are retraining our thoughts, which is great, but we're not retraining our body, we're kind of trying to fight the body rather than work with it. And so the ability to work across those levels is, of course, at first somatic awareness, but then often what I'm helping my clients develop is energetic awareness. So being able to be aware of the subtle sensations that we're picking up on all the time. I'm sure you would have had this before, Darlington, but if you've walked into a room and maybe someone's been arguing with their partner, maybe they're not arguing anymore, but you can still feel it in the air. That is like that energetic vibrational intelligence. We're always interfacing with energy and most of us just aren't aware of it. So being able to start to get aware of the impact of energy and what that's doing in our system is the next layer, I would say, after that somatic awareness for sure.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. So, you often say that Insight alone isn't enough for transformation. Why do so many people understand their patterns but still struggle to change them? Someone like me.
Mm. Do you have a specific example?
Yeah, probably no, don't have. Okay, let's say but I just addiction. Someone who smokes every day and say he wants to stop smoking, but finds out he still continues smoking.
Mm. So often it's because that behavior is meeting a need, right? So that we have found a mechanism that soothes us. There is something that is underlying. And so say, for example, a really insidious one is, say, for example, you identify as a bit of an overgiver. You're the person that's always rushing around doing things for other people. And eventually you start to feel a bit resentful. You're like, well, I'm always doing things for other people, but they're not helping me as much, or like, why aren't they appreciating me? But what we're missing out on is that often we are getting significance from being needed. It feels good to us to feel needed, even if we're not fully aware of it. It makes us feel useful. It makes us feel valuable. And often this is a way that we will soothe any anxiety about being abandoned. And so even those behaviors you speak about with smoking, it's like, what other need is this fulfilling for me? Like, is this the moment where I actually give myself space? And that's why I actually don't want to quit the smoking, because on some level that need is being met by it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. So you draw some somatic intelligence, the Hermetic tradition. You draw from somatic intelligence and the Hermetic tradition. How do these perspectives complement one another in your work?
I love that question. So I like the Hermetic principles as a way of understanding universal laws. It's like recognizing patterns that seem to recur in nature. Like I said to you before about a truth really should be true independent of circumstances in a lot of ways. And so the Hermetic tradition really offers a set of principles that are recurring throughout time and throughout nature. And so from that place, we can actually start to understand a lot of human behavior. I'm sure you might have had these experiences, Darlington. I know I definitely have. But it's like where for a period of time, I used to be into bodybuilding back when I was a personal trainer. And so my life was the gym. I would, get up, I would train twice a day, I would count my macros, I would do all of the things, and I would go gung-ho at that. And then eventually I got to a point where I realized that a lot of my behavior around the gym was me trying to escape my feelings. I actually didn't want to feel what was happening in my body, so I would just channel it into the gym. Even though, the gym is a healthy habit, it was a lot of it was a almost like loosening the pressure valve rather than actually letting the emotion move. So when I learned how to feel my feelings, I did a big pendulum swing. And so I was all about feeling my feelings, and I would actually refuse to go to the gym. I used to go for runs and things like that, but it was like the gym had been something that had been such a big thing for me, I didn't want to do anymore. And so this is in the Hermetic principles called the principle of rhythm. It's like I've swung so hard one way, naturally I'm going to swing the other. And so when we start to understand this about ourselves, and when we start to understand this when we're supporting other people, we can often track these patterns. It's like, what's really at the core of that, though, was me healing my relationship with being with myself. It's like, cool, can I be someone that goes to the gym in a healthy way and feel my feelings rather than needing to collapse into one side of the polarity? So that's part of why I love bringing those in. And the other part of why I love bringing somatic intelligence inside that is that it's all very well and good for us to have knowledge of these principles, but when we can actually start to notice where those polarities are alive in me, where my gym-going self and where the part of me that is learning to feel my feelings exist, I can actually create an internal relationship within those things and expand my capacity to be with both. That's when I don't need to remember to be different. I just start showing up as that new version of me. It's a retraining and a resynthesization of my identity. I'm not sure if you're speaking right now, but I think you're muted.
Your podcast is called Dark Mirror. So, what does the title represent for you, and what conversations are you hoping to create through it?
So, Dark Mirror is really about us being willing to look at the aspects of ourselves and the aspects of us as a society, societies or as a collective humanity that we don't really want to look at. It's like, where are things that are happening out in the world reflecting back parts of us that make us uncomfortable? And how do we form a relationship with those parts so that we can be more in control? In the name of this podcast, how can we be more in control and more proactive in engaging with those parts rather than letting our shadow expression of those run rampant? The other thing is too, it's a little bit of a play on words. A dark mirror is also or a black mirror is what you use for scrying. So it's a divination tool to see the future or to tune into different energy fields. And so often when I'm talking with people, we're also talking about what future we're wanting to cast from our present reality. So it's a little bit of a play. And the conversations is really about how are these things that we're not wanting to look at showing up in dysfunction or neurosis collectively, and what are some of the ways we can actually work on these problems together to create a different future that's more serving to more people.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. So many people avoid discomfort in the name of healing. Why do you believe certain forms of discomfort are actually necessary for genuine growth?
I feel the reason that discomfort or experiencing discomfort is necessary for genuine growth is that discomfort is our internal warning system. Usually when we're pushing up against discomfort, it's revealing to us where something has become naturalized or normalized. And often what isn't naturalized or normalized is the version of us that has the thing that we want. It's like if you want to run a successful business or a successful podcast, that version of you is doing different things to the version of you that exists right now. And so there is a degree of needing to get comfortable with being this new version, which means the version of you that's kept you at this current identity also needs to be surrendered. And so as we surrender those aspects of self that kept us in the past behaviors, that can often be uncomfortable because it's going against who we've normalized ourselves to be.
All right. So in a world full of self-help advice and quick fix solutions, how can people distinguish between temporary change and true transformation?
It's a good question. The temporary change is often where we feel like we're needing to, I don't know if you've ever had a puppy. You know how when you're training a puppy, you've got to keep telling it not to jump on the couch. Don't jump on the couch, get down. Don't jump on the couch, get down. And so often when we are in those initial stages of transformation, or maybe we've had an insight, but we haven't actually integrated it, a lot of it feels like a performance. It's like we're trying to having to tell ourselves to get off the couch repeatedly. Whereas when there is a true transformation, we don't really need to remember to be different. It just becomes part of who we are. It becomes naturalized, normalized. It's something that we now identify with. In my certification programs, I often teach my students about this. It's called transformational amnesia, which ideally, if your process with someone has been successful, they don't remember it being a problem, which is great for the client, but can also sometimes be a problem for you as a coach because they forget that was ever a problem. So it's important for us to be able to have measures for where we've come from, but ideally the goal is for us to forget that it was ever a problem.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. This has been a very, very exciting episode so far.
Thank you.
Tell us the role of self-awareness in breaking cycles that continue to control our decisions and behaviors.
So how do we break the cycles that are controlling our decisions and behaviors?
With self-awareness, the role of self-awareness.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it's really getting radically honest with whether or not the results we're getting, the way we're living our lives is what we want. And I mean, there's a degree of that self-awareness, which means often we're living lives based on the things we've been taught are important. It's like I know definitely for me growing up, there was the idea of you grow up, you find a person, you get married, you have children, you get a house and you do the job that you do and then you pass. But it's like where in that narrative is me? Is that what I actually want? And so that beginning of self-awareness is the question. If I had that, or if that was my life forever and ever, is that actually what I want? And so that initial self-awareness piece is being brave enough and bold enough to ask the question, but then also getting curious and compassionate with yourself to start to explore the answer. If it's not what I want, what is it that I do want? And am I actually showing up in a way to get it?
Okay. Thank you so much. So, Jessica, if someone listening right now feels like they have done years of personal development but still feel stuck, what would you encourage them to explore next?
I feel like if you've done years of personal development and you still feel stuck, one of the most important things to get honest with yourself about is how intentionally are you living? Like, I think that we can very often, and I've definitely done this, we can go down the rabbit hole of consuming information, but are we synthesizing, metabolizing that information and applying it? Are you clear on where you want to get to, the areas of your life that you're wanting to improve? And are you actually applying those things day in, day out? And if you are being intentional, you're clear on where you want to go. And if you are applying the things that you're learning, but you're still hitting a roadblock, that's where things like energetic alchemy really come in. It's getting underneath why it is that things still aren't shifting so that you can open up to accept a different reality.
All right, Jessica, thank you once again. Thank you for sharing your perspective on transformation, self-awareness, and the deeper work of integration. Whether someone agrees with every framework or is simply curious about new ways of understanding personal growth, you have challenged us to think beyond surface level change and consider what lasting transformation really requires. So, for those who want to learn more about your work and connect with you on your podcast, how can they do that?
One of the best ways to find me is if you're active on Instagram. You can find me at the Jessica Ann, Jessica with a C and a K, and Ann with an E. I share a lot about my current work, what I'm up to there, the certification program, as well as the most recent episode of Dark Mirror as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you all for listening to Control or Be Controlled. If this conversation encourages you to reflect more deeply on your own growth, share it with someone who might find it very, very valuable. Until next time, remember, real freedom begins when you are willing to face not only what you have been hiding from others, but also what you have been hiding from yourself. Thank you all so much. I love you guys, and make sure to check out Jessica's work if this episode is speaking to you. I will see you guys in the next episode. I love you guys. Bye, guys. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.